I'm Ron Reader, and this is Ron Reader Digs the Universe. And today's topic is something that I like to call Whitey McCracker. A little background for you. In the last 6 months, I have twice been thrown into Facebook jail for violating their community standards on hate speech. I said white trash to describe conservatives, and boom, Facebook jail for 24 hours. Then, when I got out of Facebook jail, I immediately posted to complain about it, and when doing so said white trash again, this time in quotes, to let them know I wasn't serious about it. Facebook threw me in jail for another day. Stop saying Jehovah indeed. So I just, avoided saying white trash on Facebook and just chalked it up to an absurdity with which I have to live until last Thursday. An old college buddy of mine private messaged me to tell me that he had just been thrown into Facebook jail for saying stupid white people in a comment on one of my posts. He suspected that one of my several conservative commenters had reported him for hate speech. I apologized and then immediately made a scathing post criticizing this anonymous conservative Facebook friend of mine, and boom, in less than 5 minutes, I was again in Facebook jail myself. The sheer speed of our incarcerations, my buddy had told me that he got popped in under 2 minutes, was just so fast that I don't think that this is someone reporting us. I think that it's probably some kind of, hate speech filter software. And so, I'll leave the obvious pitfalls and necessary failures of attempting to render hate speech into, simple black and white concepts that can be recognized by software. I'll leave that fucked up concept for another show. But the notion that white trash and stupid white people are even close to the same level of offensiveness as the N-word and other racial epithets, that this shit's actually hate speech, well, that is a concept well worth exploring, because a lot of white people are very sensitive about such things. Here's a good illustration. I once had a student try to get me fired for something I said. For want of a better name, let's just call this student, this villain of my tale, Moriarty. Yes, I too once had a Moriarty, except that instead of being a criminal genius, mine was a teenage neo-Confederate who lived in a trailer. I guess we all get the nemesis we deserve. Anyway, during a class discussion one day, Moriarty asked me why black comedians can make fun of white people, but not the reverse. Good question. Being a theater teacher, teaching a theater class, I recounted the history of American entertainment, about the absolute dominance in the 19th century of the minstrel show, whose racist stock characters continue to reverberate in American film and television to this very day. I explained how mocking black people isn't simply a symptom of racism, but rather a central component, instilling and perpetuating malevolent racist attitudes in generation after generation after generation. White comedians making fun of black people is really, really, really bad. So, the game was afoot with my Moriarty, but Moriarty was already 3 steps ahead of me, playing off the board and outside the box. You see, I thought the game we were playing was called education. Little did I know Moriarty had ensnared me unwittingly in a game called Fuck You, Racist Traitor. So after heated conversation in this class discussion that became so intense that I moved it out into the hallway, go one-on-one with Moriarty, and in this outside the classroom conversation, Moriarty said, "Reader, you're trying to act like you're not white." Well, after the conversation was over, my Moriarty headed immediately to the principal and accused me of drinking and drugging with students. Fortunately, the principal didn't believe any of that, especially after I explained what the situation was, just advised me to limit my interaction with my nemesis, and that was that. Moriarty's master plot was foiled. I won. But the ferocity, the speed of this attack on me, it really blindsided me back in 1998, and I just was not ready for this. And I keep going back to that moment on and off for 20 years thinking about it. Here is one of the things that I've been thinking about. It's how could I have better explained that? How can I better explain the comedy, making fun of white people, black people concept to whites who are in deep denial about how this works? I mean, what I told Moriarty was absolutely correct, but it was a bit wordy, a little unwieldy. People don't like to think too much these days. Easy to tune out. But after thinking about it for 20 years, here is what I would say in that situation now. So you're worried about black people making fun of you. Worried about being called Whitey, a cracker. It hurts your feelings, so what? Big deal. Doesn't matter. You walk away from your moment being made fun of, and guess what? White people still run everything. Your white privilege is still fully intact. You continue to live in a society where everything and everyone caters to your skin color. Yeah, hell, call me a cracker all day long. It's funny. And it bounces right off of me because I know that there is no insult a black person could hurl in my direction that would ever change the racial power dynamic in this country. I'm totally safe. So chill the fuck out. Stop your bitching. Man up and just deal with it. You're having a problem with this. It's just pathetic. Whites win in this country. Whites always win. And you're whining about an insult? Jesus fucking Christ. So, while such a direct approach is exactly what some white people need to hear, I really worry that for a lot of other white people, nothing will penetrate their paranoia. And it is very important to note that this paranoia is non-ideological. University of Texas journalism professor Robert Jensen, a guy who specializes in a lot of diversity issues, has described a white anxiety, a fear that white people have of being unmasked as racists. Liberals fear this just as much as conservatives. Not all white liberals, but enough. I have white anxiety. I don't want to be known as racist. I'm afraid of being known as racist. Racism is bad. I want to think of myself as a good person. I want everybody to think of me as a good person, so I can't be racist. Can I? Well, it's way more complicated than a simple binary racist, not racist construction could ever represent. Suffice it to say that white people fear being branded a racist, so much so that it interferes with rational thinking. I mean, you see it in their bodies all tensing up and shit, ready to have a fight, you know, when it's just a conversation. And by the way, all of you white liberals who love trashing white people and white culture, I ask, are you doing this to fight racism, to educate your fellow whites about the racism that is embedded in white culture? Or are you doing it to prove to everyone, mostly yourself, how not racist you are? It's an important difference, because the former is quite good. It's important. We need to keep on doing that, educating people about race and white culture and being white. But the latter is bad. I mean, the latter is just you going into this pattern loop of racial delusion that does nothing but serve the racist status quo. So how do we have this conversation? How do we discuss whiteness among ourselves without instantly, devolving into attitude throwing? I think that in this country, people of color and other minorities have one distinct advantage over white people, and that is that because they live in a white-dominated culture, they must necessarily deeply reflect on who and what they are relative to white people. Thus, if you're a black person in America, odds are very high that you know yourself as a black person better than if you were a white person, knowing what you are as a white person. I mean, for that matter, I don't even really think white Americans really know who they are at all as white people. I mean, what does whiteness mean? I don't fucking know. I've gotten the sense all my life that what white means is normal. The way things are supposed to be, the standard by which, everything is judged. But of course that just makes the meaning of white synonymous with oppressor. So that's bullshit. We should not embrace oppressor as our racial identity. So then, what is whiteness? And I don't fucking know. And it's virtually impossible to discuss because everyone is so ready to fucking throw down at any instant. If we can't get this figured out, who we are, then we are doomed to continue as delusional oppressors. And meanwhile, Facebook is doing everything it can to keep the confusion and racism going. Shit. Whitey McCracker. I'm Ron Reader, and this has been Ron Reader Digs the Universe. Join me, Ron Reader, again next week for another episode of Ron Reader Digs the Universe.